Hello viewers, you are welcome to another edition of e-learning on Home-Based TV. My name is Samuel Ejim. I am your facilitator for mathematics at the J.H.S. level. Last week, we looked at addition and subtraction of algebraic expressions. Today, we are going to look at multiplication and division of algebraic expressions. That's our agenda for today. Multiplication and division of algebraic expression. Good. So let's look at the objective. There are two objectives here. By the end of the lesson, you will be able to, 1, multiply simple algebraic expressions. 2, divide simple algebraic expressions. So we have two objectives here. The first one is to multiply simple algebraic expressions. The second one is to divide simple algebraic expressions. Let's look at multiplication. Now, the following also mean multiplication in maths. There are some words in simple which mean multiplication in maths. The first one to talk about is products. The word products. The word product in mathematics means or stands for multiplication. So if anybody tells you, find a product of 3 and 2, all that it means is that multiply 3 and 2. Good. The next one is of. Of, O-F. Of also means multiplication in mathematics. So if somebody tells you 3 of 2, it means 3 times 2. Simple. The next one is parenthesis, what we sometimes call brackets. It is parenthesis. Yes, the curved one is parenthesis, and then the straight ones is what we call the brackets. Good. They also stand for multiplication, or they mean multiplication in mathematics. The final one is dots. Dots. Yes, I know you'll be surprised. Dot means multiplication in maths. Now let me digress a bit and talk about dots. So be attentive. Yeah, most of the times when we are dealing with decimal fraction, we used to write this. In natural sense, we are being considered, even I've done it before. But what this one means in mathematics is multiplication. If you write this, if the dot is at the middle, it stands for multiplication. What this one means is 3 times 2. So if you actually want to show a decimal fraction of 3.2, this is how it is written. You see the decimal point at the base of the digits, in line with the base of the digits. This is a decimal fraction, but this one, you are trying to tell us 3 times 2. So called the dot products. So take notes. If like, as you are home, you can take your calculator or computer, punch any decimal figure, and then you see how the inscription appears on the screen. You see the decimal point always at the bottom or the base of the digits. That is the decimal point. So dot actually means multiplication. If you write it in the middle like that, between numbers, it stands for multiplication. Good, let's move on. Let us revise properties of integers, because you may use it in solving questions. The first one, whenever a positive multiplies a positive, you get a positive answer. So example, positive 2 times positive 3 will give us positive 6. The next one, whenever a positive multiplies a negative, you get a negative result. So example is positive 2 times negative 3 will give us negative 6 as a result. Good. The next one, whenever a negative multiplies a positive, you get a negative result. Example, negative 2 times positive 3 is negative 6. And the final one, whenever a negative multiplies a negative, you get a positive answer. So example, negative 2 times negative 3 give us positive 6. Good. Now take notes. Whenever two negative signs merge or meet, they turn out to be positive. Yes, this thing sometimes confuses them, but don't be confused. All that they mean is that it's assumed they are multiplying. So when a negative multiply negative, you get positive. So example, I'm trying to use that one to solve an example for you. Look at the example beneath there. 2 minus negative 3. Because the two negative signs are in the middle, meeting or merging, it turns out to be positive. So it becomes 2 plus 3, which will give us 5. Now let's look at this aspect too. Normally when you are multiplying numbers or digits or figures, it's easy for us. When it comes to variables, there are some confusions here and there. Now at this point in time, be attentive, and then you realize that it is so easy to deal with variables as well. So let's look at the first one. A times B is the same as AB. All that it means is that when you see series of variables without a clear operation sign between them, what it means is that they are multiplying. So A times B is equal to AB. The next one, A times B times C is the same as ABC. Good. Now let me chip in that of the integers, that the sign, the negative sign. When a negative multiplies a positive, you get a negative answer. So therefore, negative A times positive B, you get negative AB. Negative AB. The next one, when a positive also multiplies a negative, you still get a negative answer. So positive A times negative B, you still get negative AB. Good. The last but not least, when a negative multiplies a negative, you still get positive. So negative A times negative B, you still get positive AB. Now at this point, be very attentive. See, math is very easy. If you are focused and attentive, you get the concept and you move on. Now, let's look at where you have variables repeatedly multiplying itself. The first one, A times A, what is it? It's the same as A exponent 2 or A squared. Why A squared? The 2 there, what does it stand for? The 2 stands for how A repeatedly multiply, how many times A repeatedly multiply itself. So always take note, the exponent stands for the number of factors that variable multiply itself repeatedly. So A times A, you realize that A multiply itself repeatedly twice. So the 2, which is the exponent on top there, stand for the number of times A multiply itself. I hope you are getting it. Let's move on to the next one. A times A times A. What is it? A exponent 3 or A cube. The 3 signifies that A multiply itself repeatedly 3 times. Good. So anytime you see exponents, multiplication should come in mind. Know that that variable or that value multiply itself repeatedly that number of times. So let's move to the next one. So realize that A times A times A times A repeatedly multiply itself 4 times. So it's equal to A exponent 4. Good. The last but not least, A times A times A times A times A. Again, A repeatedly multiply itself 5 times. So it becomes A exponent 5. Good. Hope you got the sequence. Very good. So anytime a variable or value multiply itself repeatedly number of times, that is the exponent of that. Good. Now, before I move on to the real application of the work, let's take note of these points. Whenever you are multiplying algebraic expressions, take note of this. It will help you. You can easily multiply algebraic expressions by dealing with this. The first one is multiply a number by number. This is what I call isolation. And then variable by variable. Good. The next one, now the concept of pairs of natural numbers, that's indices, can also be used. So those of you who are okay with the concept of pairs of natural numbers, you can use that concept in also solving multiplication of algebraic expression. I will come to pairs of natural numbers in our next lesson. But for now, let's move on. So these are the examples on the screen. There are 5 examples, and in all these, I'm going to solve them with you. So at this point, Pick your pen, your book, and be attentive. Focus. As I saw, I'll be explaining. Then you'll be jotting down some points on your own. Good. All right, so now let's solve some examples. The first example is find the product of 3a and 5b. 3a and 5b. So find the product of 3a and 5b. Find the product of 3a and 5b. Follow as I solve on the board. So the meaning of this is we have to multiply 3a and 5b. The next step, I gave you some properties early on. Multiply a number by a number. That's the isolation way. And then a variable by a variable. You are easily gone. So let's look at it. We have the number 3 here and the number 5. It's multiplication. So isolation. 3 times 5. Then variable by a variable. Also isolated. A times B. 3 times 5, simple multiplication, everyone knows. That is 15. A times B, AB. This is our final answer. So simple. You see how multiplication of algebraic expression is so easy? Yes. Number by isolating them or separating them, and then variable by variable. This is the final answer of the first question. Let's move on to number 2. Simplify 7m times 4n. 7m times 4n. Easily, number by number, variable by variable. Seven times 4, you all know is 28, easily. M times n, mn. We are done. So easy. Number by number, variable by variable. Let's move on to the third one. Simplify 5a times 6a. Simplify 5a times 6a. Number by number, variable by variable. Five times 6, 30. A times A. So if the variables are the same, this is the property we looked at. They are the same here. And how many times are they multiplying each other? 2 times. So that will take the exponents. So A is multiplying itself twice. So that will give us A exponent 2. So we get 30A squared. I hope you got it. Good. Now let me chip in another concept of multiplication here, where we are going to deal with the distributive property of multiplication. Mind you, I told you bracket means multiplication. So whatever is outside the bracket multiplies what is in the bracket. Whatever expression is outside the bracket also multiplies what is in the bracket. And this aspect is what we call expansion. When we say expansion in mathematics, it means you have to do away with the brackets. And you do away with the bracket with the introduction of multiplication. Multiplication. So what it means is that this negative 3 here must multiply whatever is in the brackets. So we have negative 3 outside the bracket, but in the bracket we have 2b minus 4n. 2b minus 4n. We solve. Let's move on. So multiplication. Negative 3 multiplies this, at the same time multiplies that. So we have negative 3 going in for this. When it finishes, then go in for that. So this implies negative 3 times 2b and then negative 3 times 4n. I brought negative sign because there's negative sign here. So see, this one multiply this, I brought the negative sign, then this one will go for the 4n. Negative 3 times 2b, deal with the numbers. The same way, a number by number. Negative 3 times 2 integers, that will give us a negative answer because a negative is multiplying a positive. So that will be negative 6. Attach your b. And look at this. This is the point I raised earlier. When two negative signs merge or meet, they turn out to be positive. So this one becomes so the final answer becomes negative 6b plus 12n. Negative 6b plus 12n. Let's move on to our final question. Our final question. Good. A plus 7, and then in another bracket, b minus 5. Simplify a plus 7 in one bracket, and then b minus 5 also in another bracket. Bracket means or stands for multiplication, as I said earlier on. So whatever it means is that these two brackets are multiplying. But in each of the brackets, you see that there are some numbers and variables. So the first bracket has two terms there, a and 7, separated by the addition sign. The next bracket also has two terms, b and then negative 5. You can see that. We have to multiply this. What it means is that each term in the first bracket must multiply the second bracket. So with the same ideology of distribution, we solve. So this implies I pick the first term. It must multiply the whole of the second bracket. So B. Then I'll pick the second term, but it is having what? Positive. So it follows. Also multiply the whole of the second bracket. I'm going to take it again. It's so simple. What this one means is that they are multiplying. So whichever term in the first bracket must multiply the second bracket. So the first bracket has two terms, A and 7, positive 7. Second term has B and negative 5. What it means that I'll pick the first term in the first bracket, multiply by the whole of the second bracket, and then pick the second term of the first bracket, also multiply the whole of the what? Second bracket. So you see, when you observe very well, this is distributive property. So you're going to expand. And in all this, we are expanding. That's expansion. Yeah, in some terms, they'll say binomial expansion. The word bi means 2. So 2 terms, binomial, 2 terms. And you're expanding brackets. Good. So from here, it means A has to multiply these 2 terms, and then 7 also has to multiply these 2 terms. All right. So from here, we expand. By multiplication, the A multiplies the B. I'll bring the subtraction sign, and then you are left with A multiplying the 5. You are done with the first part. Move on to this one. And then move on to so from here, so you see 7 times this, and then 7 times negative 5. 7 times B, 7 times negative 5. Good. A times B, AB, negative 5A, positive 7B. Positive times negative, although there's positive here, positive times negative will give us a negative value. So it becomes negative 35. Okay, so by expansion, you have AB, A multiplying B, brought the minus sign, plus, if you like, you can bring the minus sign here, okay? But when you bring a minus sign, make sure that it means what is left is positive. When you expand, you still get negative back. Good. So from here, A times B is AB. A times 5, 5A, but with the negative. 7 times B is 7B. 7 times negative 5 is negative 35. Don't think what is positive here, right? Positive 35. No. Consider the integers, the negative sign. Is there any like term to be simplified? No. Why? Because the variables involved are different. The first term has AB, the second term has A, the third term has B, and then the last term is a constant term. It's just a number of value. It has no variable, so it's constant. So all these are not having any like terms. They are different in terms of variables. Good. So this is the final answer of our fifth example. Good. I hope you've taken note of all the properties used. When the variables are the same, you think of the exponents. When they are different, you deal with the variables. A times B times C, ABC. Good. Constant terms, for that one, I know you don't have any problem because you can already multiply numbers. Good. So at this point, I'll give you a series of questions for you to try your hands on at home. Pick your books, your pen, as I give you the questions on the screen. I expect you to solve everything. We are going for a short break. When we return from the break, I expect you to get the right answers.
Preview. Preview.
Yes. Now we can make productive use of our time while at home. Home-based TV brings to its cherished viewers and all learners an interactive educational program called e-learning. E-learning is a daily telecast of 3 episodes of lessons for pupils at the basic level at home. 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. lower primary classes 1 to 3, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. upper primary classes 4 to 6, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. J.H.S. 1 to 3. Tune into home-based TV every day of the week. Watch e-learning on home-based TV. Answer the questions at the end of the session and forward your answers to the contact on the screen for feedback. E-learning, extended lifelong learning, home-based TV, total enjoyment.
Welcome back from the break. Now, these are the solutions to the trial tests. So the first question, 4y times negative 3y. I hope you got the right answer. Good. Let's move on to number 2. Hope you got the right answer. Very good. Let's move on to number 3. Yes. It has got to do with expansion. Good. Hope you got the right answer. Yes, we couldn't go further because there are no like terms to the final answer. EX plus X minus 4A minus 4. That's the final answer. Very good. Let's move on to our second objective, that's division. Let's revise the properties of integers with division 2. Now, one thing you must bear in mind is multiplication and division have got the same properties. So if you are very much conversant with the multiplication, the same as division. Whenever a positive divides a positive, you get a positive result. So example, positive 12 divided by positive 3 is equal to positive 4. Whenever a positive divides a negative, you get a negative answer. So 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4. Negative divided by positive, you get a negative answer. So negative 12 divided by positive 3, you still get negative 4 as the answer. When a negative is divided by another negative, you get a positive result or answer. So negative 12 divided by negative 3 will give us positive 4. Good. At this point, the property being used in multiplication is the same as division. So whenever you are dividing an algebraic expression, divide a number by a number, and then a variable by variable. That's the first point to take note of. The second one, again, the concept of rise of natural numbers, that is indices, can also be used. Take notes. So without wasting my time, let's look at the examples. So the first example, we have 27mn squared divided by negative 3n. (27mn squared divided by negative 3n. You can easily solve this by dealing with the property I gave you. Divide a number by a number, a variable by a variable. Now, division is the same as fraction. I can express this one in fractional form. So 27mn squared divided by negative 3n can be expressed in this form. And when you express it in this form, it becomes easier for you to solve or simplify. So the next step here, I can see an exponent. You break it down into factors repeatedly multiplying itself. So you can see that the square affects n, the 2 affect n. So I can express the top one so it means they are multiplying. The top ones are multiplying. So 27 times m, you only have one of it. And then n is squared. N is repeatedly multiplying itself twice. So n times n. Good. Then move on to the down one. So from here, you usually get your answer. We are dividing the number by number. 27 divided by negative 3. What do you think will be the answer? When a positive divides a negative, you still get a negative answer. That gives us negative 9. N cancels itself 1, cancels one of it at the top. You already know cancellation. We are left with m times n, which will give us negative 9mn. We get our answer easily. So you see, pick the numbers, deal with the numbers. When you finish, then you deal with the variables. By so doing, you easily get rid of the common ones and then get your final answer. Let's move on to the second example. I hope you are following. Good, be attentive. 15ab squared divided by 6a squared b. 15ab squared divided by 6a squared b. The easy way to solve this, express it in the form of fraction. The first part is always the numerator, the second part is the denominator, as you already know. This expression and that are the same. From here, deal with the numbers, and then deal with the variables separately. I have 15 expressing these ones in terms of multiplication because the operation involved here is multiplication at the numerator. So 15 times a times b squared means b is multiplying itself twice. So times b times b. Division sign follows. So that's the numerator. Now the denominator too expresses in terms of multiplication by dealing with the exponent. So 6, a exponent 2, meaning a multiplying itself repeatedly twice. So times a times a. And then times, we are left with what? B. So easily, we can deal with the numbers. This division, 15 divided by 6. We are simplifying. It means we have to reduce the simplest form or the lowest form or term. We need a common factor for this. And of course, the highest common factor. So between 15 and 6, the highest common factor is what? 3, because 3 can divide both 15 and 6. When 3 divides 15, you get 5. When you divide 6, you get 2. So I've reduced this one. Then I'll go to the variables. A, we'll cancel A. B, we'll cancel the corresponding B. At the top, we are left with what? B. And then at the bottom, we are left with what? A. Five times A will give us, 5 times B will give us 5B, and then 2 times A will give us 2A. This is our final answer. You can't go any step further again because from here you can't reduce to any other term again. So this is our final answer to question 2. Let's move on to question number 3. We have negative 8x exponent 3 y, all divided by 2x squared y squared. So to easily solve this, we already have our expression in the form of fraction. So break it down into factors of multiplication and then deal with the numbers and then the variables accordingly. X exponent 3 means x multiplying itself repeatedly 3 times. So x times x times x. That's x exponent 3. Multiplied by y. I'm done with the numerator. Then down part 2. X multiplying itself repeatedly 2 times. So x times x. Y also multiplying itself repeatedly 2 times. So y times y. So dealing with the numbers, negative 8 divided by positive 2. Whenever a negative divides a positive, you still get a negative answer. So that will give us. And then we have x multiplying itself 3 times here, but we have 2. So we have x cancelling itself, this one 2 to this 1. We are done with the x. We go to the y. So at the top, we are left with what? 4 times x. You cannot see that. And then the bottom, we are left with what? Only y. So our final answer is negative 4x by the y. This is our final answer for number 3. Hope you are following. Good. So easy. Let's move on to our final example for today. Yes. This is what I call fraction on fraction. We have a fraction divided by another fraction. So anytime you see a division between 2 fractions, know that we change the division sign to multiplication, and then we reciprocate the divisor. Let me explain divisor here. When you write a fraction, A out of B. I'm using variables here. The A is the numerator, B is the denominator. A is also called dividend. B is called the divisor because the number dividing it. And any answer you get in fraction is what we call quotient. Quotient. For example, if I write this, I know you quickly tell me the answer is 2. Yes, it's correct. This 2 is what we call quotient. 6 is called dividend. 3 is called divisor. Because it's the number dividing the 6. So over here, this whole fraction is the one dividing this. So this fraction is what we call the divisor. Mind you, this one can also be written 6 divided by 3 can also be written this way, and the answer is 2. So this 3 is our divisor, while this one 2 is our divisor. So the same way, this our fraction here is our divisor. And then let me take this opportunity to explain the word reciprocal before we solve. Reciprocal. If you have any whole number or fraction, if I pick 2, 2 is a whole number, but I can express 2 as a fraction, which will be the same as 2 out of 1. So if I want the reciprocal of this, it means I'll turn it upside down. The denominator will now become the numerator, and then the numerator will now become the denominator. So the reciprocal of this is 1 out of 2. So if you are being asked to reciprocate, comes from the reciprocal, it means you turn the fraction upside down. The denominator becomes the numerator, and then the numerator now becomes the denominator. Good, I hope you got that. So let's move on. So I'll start by writing the first or the left fraction. Then I'll change the division to multiplication, as you're already aware. And then reciprocate the divisor here, meaning I'll take the denominator to where the numerator is, and then take the numerator, bring it to where the denominator is. So I'll turn it upside down. So it becomes good. So I've reciprocated the divisor here to this one up. So from here, deal with the numbers separately and then deal with the variables. It is still multiplication. So from here, you can see that so you see, I brought 6 and then 14 multiplying at the top level, 7 and 2 also multiplying at the down level. It is still multiplication. And then dealt with the variables too. We have a squared b times xy squared. Also dividing xy times ab. From here, I can reduce this easily. 7 and 14. Common factor, 7. Can we use this? Or 7 times 2 is 14. It can easily cancel out the 14 here. express these ones in terms of multiplication. Express them. So a squared means 8 multiplying itself repeatedly twice. And then y squared also, y multiplying itself repeatedly 2 times. xy is x times y. AB is a times b. You can clearly see that 14 cancels itself over here. And over here you can see that a also cancels a at the top. X cancels itself. Y. So at the top, we are left with 6 times, you have A, and then we have B also canceling itself. Good. A and then Y. So you have 6 times A times Y. At the bottom, what do you have? They are all 1. When one multiplies, I still get 1. Six times A times Y is 6AY, all divided by 1. A number divided by 1 is the same thing. So we have 6AY as the final answer. So you see how easy to simplify set expressions. Bear it in mind, when there is division, change it to multiplication, and then reciprocate the divisor. Reciprocate the divisor. Good. At this point, I'll give you trial questions or tests for you to try your hands on at home. So pick your books, your pen, and then solve the questions as they appear on your screen. All right, so these are the questions on the screen. Do well to answer all of them, and I hope you get the answers correct. We are going for a short break. When we come back, I'll provide the solutions for you to see how far you've gone with your work. Stay tuned.
Preview. Preview.
These are the solutions to the trial tests. So question number 1 was negative 24y squared, all divided by negative 3y. So these are the steps, and then the final answer to 8y. Good. The second one, negative 18a squared b, all divided by negative 6ab. So the steps, express them number by number. And the final answer is 3a. 3a. Good. The third one, yes, we have a fraction being divided by another fraction. So this is where you change the division sign to multiplication, and then you reciprocate the divisor. Reciprocate the divisor. Good. So dealing with the numbers, cancel out, you get 6, and then the variables. So the final answer becomes 6bx. 6bx. If you happen to write 6xb, it's still correct. But we normally write the answers in alphabetical order. Very good. Hope you got your answers correct. Good. Now, move on to the next slide, which is the assignment for today's lesson. You have to simplify the following algebraic expressions. So the first question is negative 7a times negative 9y. Negative 7a times negative 9y. The second one is into bracket a minus 5. Into bracket a minus 5 times 6b. The third one, you have into bracket 5 plus 3a, and into another bracket negative 2a plus 1. So all that means you have to expand. I've already explained that. Bracket means multiplication. So you have to expand. Expansion is by multiplication. Good. The fourth one, we have negative 28x exponent 3, y exponent 2, all divided by negative 7x exponent 2 times y. And the last but not least, you have 16xy squared divided by 5ab, all divided by 8xy divided by 25a squared b. Now at this point, I'll advise for you to take your phone and take a snapshot of the questions, since they will not keep long on the screen. Take a snapshot of the question. Make sure you have a sharp image so that you can easily copy the right questions. Good. I hope you are done with the questions. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I look forward to having another quality time with you same time next week. Till then, bye-bye.
Yes, yes, yes. Now we can make productive use of our time while at home. Home-based TV brings to its cherished viewers and all learners an interactive educational program called e-learning. E-learning is a daily telecast of 3 episodes of lessons for pupils at the basic level at home. 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. lower primary classes 1 to 3, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. upper primary classes 4 to 6, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. J.H.S. 1 to 3. Tune into home-based TV every day of the week to watch e-learning on home-based TV. Answer the questions at the end of the session and forward your answers to the contact on the screen for feedback. E-learning, extended lifelong learning, home-based TV, total enjoyment.